Hey, Katie.
Hi, Ben.
So it has been 5.5 years since we started this podcast. Over 5.5 years since we started this podcast.
Yeah.
And we've covered a lot of topics.
Yeah.
And
And we're out of stuff to talk about. There's no more data science. No,
this is the end of the road.
I'm being facetious about that, but no, in all seriousness, this is probably the last you might hear from us for a while. We're gonna hang up our microphones, so to speak, and kind of call it a day with this podcast. I think we wanted to do this as like a last episode to, I don't know, take a walk down memory lane or whatever, but it's not going to be a data science episode that you have here, but more a little bit of like a retrospective and a thank you and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's do it. You're listening to Linear Digressions. So
Ben, I want to kick it off with a question to you. So like you said, I think you said this in the intro, we've been doing this for about 5.5 years. This is episode number 293. Is that correct?
But who's counting?
I'm curious, like we started to reminisce about this a couple weeks ago when we really started talking about winding this down. We kind of cut it off so that we could record it. Like, I'm really curious. If you had asked me when we started this podcast how long I thought it would last and how much of a response I thought we would get, the wildest numbers I could have come up with would not have been anywhere near what we've actually done here, which is really cool. How about you? Is that like, has that been your experience now looking back on it?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, it's really hard to access a memory from 5.5 years ago without retconning it, you know? But,
sure.
I mean, okay, so what are some of the numbers? We're recording this on July 13th. We're going to release it in a couple of weeks, probably. So as of July 13th, the day that we're recording this, it's been 2,106 days since we started. We've recorded 293 episodes.
Are you counting reruns in there?
Oh, yeah, I guess I'm counting reruns.
So fewer than that in terms of unique episodes.
Yeah, probably 285 or something, or 282. I'll allow it. But yeah, those are kind of insane numbers. And I don't think I would have predicted we would have been recording for over 5 years. I think maybe I would have guessed 110 episodes or something.
There's no universe in which I think I would have anticipated, like, oh yeah, almost 6 years from now, I'll still be doing this. Yeah. But I don't know. We just like kind of never really stopped doing it.
Yeah.
So now here we are.
I also today went on iTunes and I looked at our reviews. And at the end of every episode, it says, if you can, leave us a review on iTunes. And the reason we say that is because it helps bump up the podcast in what iTunes and Apple promote, and also other podcasting services. But I had never gone and really read all of them. And it really helped me understand the influence that this podcast has actually had on a number of people's lives. And it's just something that I guess I knew intellectually, but I never really grokked it. And I'm, to be honest, am not even sure that I've grokked it now.
Yeah, it's I've done that occasionally too over the years. It's a humbling experience to, because podcasting, it's a strength and a weakness of the medium that, like, I don't know, I'm just sitting here in my office by myself. And I'm talking to my buddy on the phone. It's the least intimidating thing you can imagine. But if I were to imagine giving a talk in front of a commensurate number of people to, like, effectively how many people we're talking to right now, I would find that very off-putting. So on the one hand, it's a nice insulation from stage fright, and
true.
it allows me to really focus on the material and think about what I think is cool, and I don't feel a lot of pressure to perform every week or anything. But at the same time, it also means that there's a little bit of separation from the listener sometimes. And many people, as you know, have gotten in touch through the years. Like there are people that we've had wonderful conversations with when they've sent us emails. So all of those little opportunities to feel like we're in some kind of conversation with our listenership, even if it's only a tiny slice of it, feeling like there's folks on the other side of the microphone, has been really lovely. I think it's, at least for me, kept me sometimes engaged during some of those like weeks and months when I don't want to do a podcast. I want to just, shut my computer after a long day's work and not have to think about it anymore. I think that in brief, the longevity that we've enjoyed and the amount that we've both gotten out of this has been in large part because our audience has been so great. So thank you all so much, whether you started listening last week or you've been with us since the first episode. As an aside, I'm really curious how many people are listening to us now that started listening to us in, gosh, this would have been like November of 2014. So I don't know, like tweet at us or something if you've been there since the beginning, because I don't know, I want to buy you a beer or something. But
right. October 7th, 2014.
October 7th. Okay. Yeah. Anyway,
that's the day. It's nuts. We're going to keep the email address and the website up for some significant amount of time. And so if you feel like writing to us, we will read your email.
Yeah, if you're finding this, far in the future of July of 2020, reach out. We're probably still around, although who's to say, based on when you get this.
Yeah, it's like a time capsule. Every podcast is like a time capsule. I'm curious to know how, in over 5 years, this process has evolved for you. Because, I know that when we first started, we were literally going into a conference room at Udacity for the first couple of episodes and just sitting there and talking around a microphone. And then you moved to Chicago, and we started both recording our own voices with our own microphones and having a phone call with headphones. And then we sync those up in post-production and combine them. But I don't know, has your process around thinking about the podcast or like doing research or anything changed over the years?
Well, at a certain point, we had enough content that I could start doing reruns, and that was a game changer because it meant I could take a week off.
Vacation,
that's not what you meant, but I think there are big parts of it that, especially process parts of it, that kind of, become second nature after a while. So I don't know if people know this, but I edit all of the episodes. So when we record, it's usually pretty close to straight through. Like I have a very light touch when it comes to editing. And
we've gotten a couple emails from people being like, hey, do you want to pay me to edit your podcast?
Yeah. And I think
it's fine.
No, it's actually, I've been tempted on a few occasions because it's, it takes an hour or two to do that, go through that editing process. And sometimes, I got other stuff going on. I think, one thing that's changed is I can edit the podcast and totally multitask other times. Like I'll sit there and like read the newspaper or something while I'm editing, and
really?
I can hear pauses and ums and these kinds of things that normally I would edit out without. I have like maybe 5% of my brain engaged, but I could edit in my sleep if I needed to. So I don't know if I don't know if that's what you meant, but I guess
that's fascinating.
An adaptation. Really cool. There was the one time that I accidentally uploaded the wrong file, and so everyone heard. This was pretty recently. This was like 6 months ago, maybe. And so everybody heard like the one that we hadn't edited that had all the pauses and the ums and the table talk and stuff. So it's not available on the feed anymore. If you heard it, that was like I don't know. It's like a stamp that's got a misprint on it or something.
Yeah.
That will
or
never
a Beanie
be
Baby
again.
with 5 legs. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. but that was only a little bit mortifying.
And I'm kind of, I think if when I was younger, I would have been a little embarrassed about that, but I think it's kind of delightful knowing a little bit more about how the sausage gets made. I don't know very much about machine learning or data science. And so in a lot of these pauses, you'll finish saying something and then I'll say, okay, where do you want to go? Like, where do you want to take this so I can ask the right question? Or because I just have no idea what to ask. So it's definitely, I mean, my side of it, it's very collaborative because you've always helped kind of guide me to have the right understanding enough that I can guide the listener. And I've always been really appreciative of that.
Well, and I think that's part of the strength of this particular setup that we have. There are many, wonderful ways that two people can host a podcast together. But I think with data science and machine learning, because so much of what we talk about is fairly technical, I try to make it accessible. I try to tread lightly on some of the heaviest technical aspects. But at the end of the day, having you there as a genuine, interested, intelligent, non-expert, I think actually makes the podcast much more successful than it would be if it were just me nerding out on my own. Oh, and as an aside, as we were talking about longevity of this whole project, like if this were just me doing it by myself and I sat in a room for 20 or 30 minutes every week and talk to myself about machine learning, like I would have quit this like so many years ago. It's not even funny. So I think there's for sure it's not just like a thing that we do together, but there's like a real teamwork to it. So yeah, pleasure's all mine for sure. Do you want to talk at all about like why we're quitting? Just because like we haven't said anything. I don't want to make like, a big thing, but
yeah. Okay.
Speaking of table talk.
Yeah, right. We could just leave this in. No.
I have half a mind to do that, but I don't know. I'll sleep on it.
Why not? Yeah. So, Katie, why are we stopping the podcast?
Oh, no particular reason. Honestly, it just like can't do this forever, and
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I was being mostly facetious at the beginning of this when I said that data science was done and we had covered it all. But that's a little bit of the feeling sometimes that I've had more often in the last year or two is, data science has been actively evolving as a field over the course of the time we've been running this podcast. And I think that's been reflected a lot in the content that, at least for me, that I've chosen to cover. It's reflected the fact that, much of data science and machine learning is now as much about how do we manage this field? How do we do it responsibly? How do we think about doing it at scale? It's as much about that as like the technical algorithms, which was primarily where we focused at the beginning part of the podcast when people just didn't even know what the realm of the possible was. And so in the course of that evolution, I've also felt like, a podcast I still think is a great medium, and I love it as an overall way of communicating, but feeling like there are other ways of contributing that are, I think, a little bit more exciting to me right now, and that I would like to have a little bit more time and space to focus on. And feeling like having a weekly podcast that just keeps going forever, feeling like there was less of a pull of the content that excited me the most. And it's not to say that, I haven't liked learning about all this stuff. I always love learning about all this stuff. But there were a lot more times recently in the last couple of years where I'm like, oh, I have to think of something to talk about instead of being like, oh, here's a thing that I had that I had been thinking about anyway, and the podcast gives me an opportunity to talk about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And actually, I'm remembering how you were talking about, this is on the 4-year anniversary episode that we did a year and a half ago. I asked about how your motivations have changed, and you talked about the original motivation was you just had all of these scraps, all of these ideas and things that as you were making the course for Udacity, you found there were all of these things that you wanted to talk about that were really interesting, but there wasn't really a way to squeeze them into the course. And so, they got left on the cutting room floor. And so the part of the genesis of the podcast was thinking, wow, there are all these things to talk about. Why not make a podcast and talk about them? And it can, all the episodes can be shorter than like a full course or a lesson, and we can talk about these pieces.
And so we did that for maybe 6 months, and then we had chewed through the backlog.
Right.
And then we were like, oh, but there's still all this other interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And then at a certain point, we chewed through all of that backlog too, and I was like, well, I guess we need to go start learning some more stuff so that we have things to talk about. And honestly, that's been one of the most rewarding parts about all of this, is it for sure has pushed me. There are many weeks where I have to basically go out and learn something that week so that I have something to talk about. And that will, being in that mindset week after week, month after month, year after year, pushes you to think about things that you otherwise never would have learned about, right? Mm-hmm. I think at this point I have for sure started to forget many of the things that I have talked about. So at a certain point, like you're stuffing content in the top of your brain, and like the old stuff is falling out the back.
So bottom.
Yeah, I'm not sure that like it doesn't accrue infinitely, but as a general exercise, I've found that to be very cool and rewarding, and I will miss that forcing mechanism, I think. But yeah. That's life.
I've learned a lot doing this too. And I really do feel like I just feel incredibly lucky that every week, or every 2 weeks, I guess we record every 2 weeks, I get to show up and I get to learn something new about something that I probably wouldn't learn. And all of these different technical fields are kind of connected in different ways. Like, it's useful to know what a Markov chain is in my field. Not really, really useful, but I learned that here, talking to you. I learned how neural nets work, or at least the basics of it. I learned about supervised learning, which is a really simple concept, but it formalized it as a thing in my mind, And we just talked about a lot of really interesting things too. Like we talked about gravitational waves and the search for those. We talked about a bunch of medical stuff. Like one of the titles of our episodes was "Curing Cancer with Machine Learning is Super Hard," and also like answered a lot of the questions I had. Like, okay, if you have an algorithm that can identify something in an x-ray better than a doctor, well, you've solved the problem, right? And the answer is no, you haven't solved the problem, because there are a lot of things that a doctor can do that a machine learning algorithm by definition can't do. GPT-2, we talked about a lot of things over the years, and more than any individual episode teaching me a thing comprehensively, I feel like now after making and listening to all of these episodes, I have this fuzzy understanding of machine learning that's actually really valuable in my field as just a software engineer. So yeah, it's been a really wild ride, and I had no idea that I was gonna learn this stuff.
Well, that makes me feel all warm and fuzzy. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you wish we had? I feel like you had 5 years to be like doing requests. So if there's anything left, it's your fault, not mine. But I'm curious if there's anything that strikes you, let me not phrase it as like topics you wish we'd covered, because that seems a little less interesting, but just like, opportunities, like, man, that was a really cool episode. I wish we, like, that one stands out to me as a high point. I wish we'd been able to do more of those, or, experiments that we talked about trying, but maybe never really like fully executed on. Anything like that?
Yeah. One of them, I would say, I wish you had finished the detector. Remember, you're making the detector to remove all of the from our raw recordings.
People loved that episode. Like, I heard people would mention that for years afterwards. I was shocked.
Yeah, and I just found that fascinating. Also, it is interesting to note that as that problem got really difficult and you realized, maybe I'm not going to solve this, you just stopped saying as much.
Well, I edited it out too.
Well, that's true, but in the raw recordings.
I picked up a new verbal tick though. Here's one
what is
that
it?
I edit out. I say, or I say kind of. Those are my qualifiers that I will use when I want to be slightly indirect. So
okay, what are my oddities then? Because I don't edit the episodes.
So one of the things that you do is you're usually the first voice that speaks after the guitar, like baron out at the beginning.
Yeah.
And what you almost always start with is, okay, so... And
really?
Then you,
oh, no.
Yeah, I think I usually leave it in, so that would be easy enough to listen for, because it usually happens in the first minute.
Okay.
And then, and it's also your kind of cold start intro. So a lot of times if we will have an aside where we're trying to craft out a little bit, like a question or a comment for you to interject so we can keep the episode moving, very often that will be the way that you will pick up when your speech starts. There was my
I heard it. I heard it this time.
I heard it. Yeah.
Oh man. This will never be the same.
Nope.
Okay, so I wanted to ask you about what are some of the challenges that you found over the years in recording?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, personally, sometimes I'm just tired. I don't know if that's what you meant, but that's a real thing.
Oh yeah, that's one.
Yeah, I think there's a certain amount of... It is not easy to come up with fresh, interesting content week over week. So to some extent, you can delay that and push it off a little bit by doing reruns. And, totally candidly, not every episode we've released I've been like, wow, that was amazing. Some weeks you're like, I just need to put something out. And A- is what it's going to be this week. Yeah. I don't have anything in particular in mind when I say that, but just to acknowledge that, week over week fresh content is very challenging, I've found. I also think that with data science, with certain topics, I feel like there's some obligation on my part to deal with their technical complexity, if that's a really important part of appreciating the algorithm or understanding it or the topic. And, I am not an expert in all of the things that we talk about. A lot of times I'm reading the paper and trying to learn it so that I can talk about it within this context. And so feeling like I'm able to download all of that technical content, synthesize it enough that I can play it back in a way that's approachable and that's the right amount, is as accurate as possible for sure. Although I'm sure I've made many mistakes, hopefully none of them gaping ones, but I'm sure there are many things I haven't gotten quite technically correct if there were, say, an expert listening.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes we get those
hard.
emails, actually.
Yeah, and everyone has been always super kind and constructive.
Yeah.
So I really don't mind them at all. And sometimes they have challenged me to think about things in a new way, or they've helped me realize that there was something that I didn't see. So I never have any problem with that. But yes, occasionally people will reach out and give me a gentle correction, let's say, and I appreciate that.
There's also background noise. I'm very familiar with the sound of your dog's collar.
My dog's collar. I live in downtown Chicago, and so there have been many times where we have had to wait for a fire truck.
Siren, fire trucks. Yep.
Yep. You talk to your cat a lot.
I do.
Not
I mean,
a lot.
I know that I guess I do. Also, this is a challenge I did not expect. I should have foreseen this when I got her, my cat Ella. Is I'm always terrified that she's going to hop on the table and step on the wrong button and stop recording and delete the recording. And then we'll have to start all over again.
That would be a mess.
Yeah, so I'm always terrified of that, and that's a challenge.
But she's never done it.
She's never done it, no.
Good cat.
Okay, so I have a strange question for you. Just as we kind of finish this episode up. If you could magically have knowledge in a particular direction, where would you have taken linear digressions?
Like, if I could snap my fingers and have a rich vein of expertise in some kind of domain that could then be presumably fodder for another year's worth of episodes or something.
Yeah.
That's a good question. I think it would be around technical issues, and especially ones that become most relevant when you're working on productionalized models and like really large scale systems. And, you know, I've worked at a couple of startups. I was a grad student when I started this. So I guess like when I was a grad student, we were working with pretty big data sets in physics. But for example, like you work at Facebook and Netflix, and there are technical issues and also like processes and best practices and all kinds of stuff that comes into play when you're dealing with data sets of that size and organizations of that size. And so I think that those kinds of technical and organizational topics I think they're really interesting. I think they're only a subset of the field really has to deal with them. So I'll acknowledge that, you know, it would have been a little bit, the podcast might have taken on a slightly different flavor.
More niche.
Yeah, but I think it's important, and I think it's a critical part of thinking about data science as a long-term field, not just like what is data science right now, but how is it going to evolve over the coming years? How has it been evolving over the previous years, and like the big technical systems that people are architecting to orchestrate and productionalize and monitor all of these systems. Like there's a lot of technical complexity that goes into solving those problems, and I think having that be the basis of a series of conversations would have been for sure really interesting to me.
I think if it were me, one area I'm really interested in is I don't know exactly what to call it, but the direction of AI and like singularity and generalized AI and super AI. What they're terms that I'm forgetting. Super intelligence, yeah. That's a really interesting kind of field of study with huge ramifications and not very much like real world applicability right now. It's kind of future tripping in some ways, but trying to use data to do it. So it's a really interesting field.
Also, if anybody wants to start that podcast and they're looking for a co-host,
yeah, right.
Ben at lineardigressions.com.
I will do it. Yes. So what other podcasts do you listen to?
I listen to mostly non-technical podcasts. My favorite is one called Everything is Alive, and it's a totally random...
Oh, yeah.
You're familiar?
I've heard of it, yeah. It's interviews
really
with inanimate objects.
Exactly. That are still... they're played by actors who are articulating what it's like to be a balloon or a mirror or a subway seat or whatever. And it's a very strange concept, but it works so well. That's my favorite.
Yeah.
I'll also listen to This American Life. I like The Daily from the New York Times.
Yeah.
99% Invisible. How about you?
I like Reply All.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
That's a great one. There's an episode called No Dumb Questions. Sorry, there's a podcast called No Dumb Questions, which if you've ever seen the YouTube channel Smarter Every Day, it's that guy and another guy. And it's just always really interesting content. And also, I would say a podcast called The Soundtrack Show. This guy, David W. Collins, basically takes movie soundtracks and pulls them apart and examines them in a very accessible way. I just love that one.
Yeah, you're kind of a music guy, so that makes sense to me. Cool.
What are you going to do with your time now that you're not, spending an hour researching every week and an hour editing every week?
Well, I have a backlog of books I want to read, so I'm probably just going to catch up on my reading a little bit. I am interested in spending a little bit more time coding and perhaps contributing to some open source projects. So I'm on a little bit of a poking around at a couple things right now, trying to sniff out what might be a good thing to work on. But I really like coding, and it's something that I don't get to do as much as a part of my day job anymore as I did perhaps when I started this. So that's how I'm thinking about it right now.
Nice.
Yeah. How about you? I guess for you it's a little bit more like recording is the main time commitment. You don't have to prep or edit
less time.
Much. Yeah.
Less time. Yeah. But I am picking up the cello. It's my latest instrument.
Cool.
It's hard. It's so hard.
Well, if you ever want to give a little concert, like you said, we're going to keep the feed up and make it available for folks for a long time to come. So who knows? Maybe there will be an occasional drop in. Don't unsubscribe yet. Let's say just leave the feed open. Maybe there will be an occasional line that we will drop you, but. I
can give you a quick concert, which is you are listening to Linear Digressions.
Very good.
There you go. Yeah, I guess we're kind of at the end of it.
Yeah, I think that's it. I don't have anything else to say. It's been really fun. Thank you for listening to us ramble for the last 30 minutes or so. If anybody's still listening.
That'd be amazing if someone listened to 293 episodes and then got bored in the last 10 minutes, turned it off.
Yeah,
I'm done. Yeah.
But yeah, it's been really fun. I will, I'm so glad we did this. I will be proud of this forever. And just thanks to everyone who's been a subscriber or a supporter or has interacted with us. Whether you're listening or not, we appreciate all of you. We'll miss you, but if you ever, bump into me at a conference or something, please come up and say hello. Yeah. Always
feel free to drop us a line.
Yeah.
Ben or Katie with an IE at lineardigressions.com.
So thanks, everybody. It's been fun. Thank you, Ben. You've been wonderful.
Thank you, Katie. I have learned so much over the last 5.5 years. And so you were saying earlier, if it was just you in a room sitting, talking to yourself about machine learning, the podcast wouldn't have gone on for 5.5 years. If it was just me in a room talking to myself about machine learning, the podcast would have lasted for half an episode. So I mean, really, really, thank you so much for everything, and I just feel so privileged to have been on this ride with you.
Oh, thanks. And goodbye forever.
Goodbye forever, maybe. Linear Digressions is a Creative Commons endeavor, which means you can share or use it any way you like. Just tell them we said hi. To find out more about this or any other episode of Linear Digressions, go to lineardigressions.com. And if you like this podcast, go ahead and leave us a review on iTunes so other people get to listen to this content too. You can always get in touch with either of us. Our emails are ben@lineardigressions.com and katie@lineardigressions.com in case you have comments or suggestions for future shows. You can tweet us at lindigressions. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time.